Good evening, everybody. How's it going? I'm in a different spot today because I got a little squirt down here with me who I need to keep an eye on, and sometimes comes in the room while I'm in there. Oh, hold on a sec. Come here. Come here, Squirt. Say hello to Squirt. This is Madison. Yes, it is, and maybe she'll hang out with me. Maybe she won't. We'll see. She's a brand new addition to the household. Um, rescue. There's a Pause for a Cause is the name of the organization. So it's a foster program, and they rescue cats, wild, that are kind of. Madison and her litter came from a Culligan water warehouse, and the people there were calling the exterminator to deal with the issue. Somebody realized what they were doing and called this animal rescue place. They came and rescued them. So we're on a foster program with hoping to adopt, is what the plan is anyway. We've only had her for 3 days, but it's been glorious already. She's pretty darn sweet. So she'll be hanging out with me and trying to bite my hands and play fight as we try to do this. Hello, Cthulhu Hand Luke. How you doing? So I'm set up a little different because while I'm in there doing this, I can't keep an eye on her, and I don't want her to get in to stuff in there, but I also don't want her sitting meowing at the door trying to get in. So I figured we'll probably do a couple of weeks out here, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes next week. So it's Sunday. We had our chat on Rasa's channel today. It was great. It was good to see her. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had a chance to talk. So it was pretty great to get together and see how things were going. I read quite a stack. Pardon me. I read quite a stack this week. I'll try not to get too distracted here. I read quite a stack of books this week, which was great. Some really good reading. I'd say it's going to be one of those weeks where it was a lot of kind of a little more mainstream reading than independent. I think mainstream stuff dominated the week, but some pretty fun books. So why don't we get into it, as long as I don't get wrestled here. We'll start here because this is on the top of the pile. There's a new Firefly series starting up. I think it's going to be a 6-issue mini. It's the Fall Guys. Fantastic cover there of Zoe on the front there. Talked about many different Firefly and Serenity related books over the years, I guess. So this is Sam Humphries, written by Jordi Perez, illustration, Francesco Segala doing the coloring, and then lettered by Jim Campbell. Not Jimmy the Shiv Campbell. There's been a lot that's happened in this universe. I haven't read everything from Firefly and Serenity by any stretch. There's so much of it. I've just read bits and pieces. Wash is gone. He's dead. Jane is dead. The captain isn't the captain anymore. Did I say Wash? Wash is gone. Did I say that? Kaylee is the captain now. Wash and Zoe had a kid. She's with them. I think she's in this issue. I don't remember now, actually. Excuse me there. Looks like the cat gave me the boot. Enough of this. Pay attention to me. So this kind of is classic Firefly from the TV show. They get set up to go and pull a job, and of course, kind of things go a little south during that job. I don't want to give away anything with this issue because there's a bit of a twist at the end that seems like it's going to be interesting. I like the art. The other thing that I was talking about this afternoon was sometimes the art with these books isn't kind of my favorite thing. So part of the reason why I haven't read everything that they've done in this universe, because it doesn't always sit with me so well. This is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not the best art I've ever seen in my life, but there's nothing wrong with it by any stretch. But it might be something that, because I've missed so much, I might take a look in the library to see if they have any of the collections, because I know there was a bunch of collections of this material, just to kind of catch up and see how much has changed and how things happened. One of the books that I always recommend is A Shepherd's Tale. I'd got that, I don't know, a year ago, 2 years ago. I'm not even sure. It was quite a while ago. And it collects Shepherd's kind of backstory, because he's dead in this now comic universe as well too. But it collects, tells a story about his history, which is super interesting. So yeah, that's all I'll show you. I won't show you anymore for fear of spoilers, but this just came out. So if you're a fan of the show or any of the books, if you've read them, it's definitely worth checking out. Continuing on with Doctor Strange, the new series. Hello, Miss So, how you doing? Yeah, that's the room that I usually film in there. So we're just out in the kind of main room. I see you've changed your avatar. Speaking of changes, issue number 7 of this new Doctor Strange volume. Issue number 6, we had the history of, was it not Marshall Strange? What the heck was his name now? I don't remember. General Strange, of course. General Strange, silly me. Jed MacKay, Pascal Ferry, Heather Moore, which I just realized this afternoon reading the credits. So Tradd Moore's wife, Heather Moore, doing coloring in this series, which is really nice. Explains why this kind of resonates with me a little more. Rossa was asking me this afternoon what's making me pick this series up. I'm not really sure, because there was a few issues at the beginning where they were just okay. I think I'm just jonesing some new Doctor Strange material. Issue 6 so far has been the highlight when we looked into General Strange's past and how all that happened. This one has a pretty nice turn as well too, because now obviously the stakes have risen with General Strange being in the same universe with the Good Doctor and Clea. And Doctor Strange is kind of getting the gears from some people, one of who I guess this guy here killed him in one of the previous volumes when he died there. I didn't read any of that stuff, so some of that history is lost on me, but we have a pretty nice moment here where Doctor Strange kind of reminds him, like, listen, you may have got the best of me the one time, but I'm sick of your bullshit. Anybody here, you're lucky to exist, because I could take you out at any moment, or so he says. But stuff like this is pretty gorgeous, and I think for me the coloring really adds to it, because again, it's not horrible art. It's pretty nice. It's not my kind of go-to, but I think the colors really work for me. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with it, because I'm sure there's only a couple more issues, and then they'll redo it and do another number 1. But so far it's entertaining enough. One of the highlights from this week was the new Batman book by Rafael Grampa. I've been waiting for this for a long time. Like, look at that cover, how that 3D effect that's going on there. It looks like it's embossed. It's not, but a really beautiful job on the coloring here to give it that look. Some kind of little bit of spot varnish in here too, not on the whole thing, but just on some sections of the cape, and then obviously the figure itself. Really nice job. I wasn't expecting anything with this story. This just came out this week. It's Rafael Grampa, writer and artist, Matheus Lopez on color, and then John Workman, letterer. There's a bunch of variant covers, including Jim Lee, Frank Miller and Jock, David Finch, Priscilla Petrades, Paul Pope, actually, and Jose Villarrubia. Wow, the 1 in 100 variant. And then the 1 in 250 variant is Frank Miller. So nice to see we're back into that level of bullshit. Anyway, I'm sure the covers are beautiful. They don't collect them in the back here like they do sometimes with some of the other books. from other companies, where they at least show you what the covers are. Wasn't expecting much of a story. I've known about Grandpa, been a fan of Rafael Grandpa for a long time, ever since Mesmo Delivery. Love that book. It really kind of showcased someone who was just a wild, wild artist. And I think here's where we can really see how much work, again, this stream might be all about colorists, how much work the colorist is doing. We have our regular palette here. Once we shift scenes to kind of go to our main villain who's watching a film, we get this beautiful kind of black and white work here, which looks really, really nice. Grandpa's style is very, very cool. I'm really liking how he's portraying Batman in this one too. Another one where I'm not going to give you any spoilers, because there are, as much as it's boring, kind of a boring character at this point, how much can you do with this character? I do feel like there is one little nugget here that does catch my interest. I am very curious to see where he's going to take it, but again, I don't want to spoil it. You do need to pick it up, but we're here for the art mainly, and it doesn't disappoint. I think number 2 is in the works. I don't know if it's complete or when it's going to come out, but this is on Black Label, but it's comic book size, and I don't quite understand, because a bunch of the Black Label stuff, not all of it, but a bunch of it has been magazine size, and I would love to see this. Pardon me. I would love to see this magazine size. Won't show you too much more. Again, I don't want to spoil anything, but I did want to show you. I'm assuming when we get the onomatopoeias, when we get the sound effects, that is Grandpa as well too. I don't think that's Workman doing that. I assume Workman is doing the text, and then Grandpa is doing the lettering for the sound effects there. I love the way he integrates the sound effects into the art and changes up the style and everything. I think that works really well. There was one more here that I just wanted to show you. Let's see if I can find it. And again, I'm not going to show you every page. Yeah, here's this other image I wanted to show you. We get a nice shot of Batman's costume in this one. Yeah, looks fantastic. Pretty cool design there. Looks pretty lean. That cape is kind of controlled, which is pretty nice. Yeah, looks great. And then one or two more. We'll see here. Skip past all of this. I don't know if I'm a fan of the villain in this one. I'm kind of so far more interested in Batman / Bruce Wayne's story in this one. But who knows? Maybe the villain will pick up some steam in the next one. I don't know how many issues this is supposed to be. I don't know if this is just a couple of issues, but here's a great shot there with, again, some pretty good Krazak in the background. Not quite a crack, but we'll claim it as our own anyway. So yeah, been waiting for this for a long time. I'm glad that it's here. I'm glad that it's him doing everything, because it's just good to see, kind of his take, all his own take. What do I got over here? So this stuff will save that. Okay, so the other thing I dug into this week is we had our Night Terrors. This was the event that was happening in DC that went across a whole bunch of books. The main character was Deadman. We had the Golden Age Sandman as well too. We had some Batman in here as well. And then once the Night Terrors, I think it was a 4-issue miniseries. There was a prelude. There was the 4 issues, I think. Then there was the post-ish single issue. Once this kind of 4-issue stuff was done and we got into the post, all of the characters kind of from all the other books came into one book. We weren't surprised by the ending whatsoever, but it really reminded me of Deadman and just how much I love him as a character and how much I've always loved him as a character. So it led me to read a bunch of Deadman stuff this week. Where's that one? Okay, this is here. One of them that I found for $1 the other day was Adventure Comics. This was a really fantastic read. This and The Brave and the Bold were my favorite reads out of the Dead Man stuff. This is issue number 464. Kind of like the Action Comics Weekly or any of those kind of books, a bunch of different stories in it. I only read the Dead Man one. It was kind of double-sized. We also get Aquaman, Wildcat, the Flash, and Wonder Woman in here. Very, very thick volume here. So it was just the Dead Man stuff that I read. Let's find it here. Here we go. Len Wein and Jerry Conway were the writers. Jim Aparo on art. Glynis Wein is the colorist. And this is one called Requiem for a Dead Man. This kind of introduced some stuff, not introduced, sorry, kind of tackled some of the stuff that I do like about this character. I like kind of his detachment and how he's not suffering, but how he's kind of dealing with that. He can't get any physical contact. He can't communicate with anybody unless he inhabits the body of another person. And just kind of what that does to him. And he sort of questions whether he should have actually taken on this role or just kind of met his end 6 feet in the dirt. So kind of struggling with that. He starts hearing this voice that's drawing him to a location. He doesn't know what's going on, but it's deafening in his head. So in order to quiet it, he just keeps going. Turns out there's a seance going, calling for him at this lab. It's not Star Labs, but it's something else. If I was better at my DC history, I'm sure that it's very, very relevant, but I just don't have that kind of knowledge of the DC universe. At this lab, there's some funny events going on, and they're blaming it on the ghost of Boston Brand. So they want to, they're having the seance because they want to exorcise him from the space. And of course, not everything is how it seems. And of course, now that he's been introduced to this group, he kind of helps solve the mystery that's going on in this space. A fun little story for sure. Again, if I knew more of the characters, I'm sure it has that extra layer, but I did enjoy it. There's some nice shots there too, so nice stuff there. The other one that stood out for me for my Dead Man reading this week was this issue of The Brave and the Bold, issue number 86. Rasa has the Dead Man omnibus and the stuff that we're talking about, including what we're going to talk about in a minute. There's Dead Man in this Aquaman issue as well. All of it is contained in that omnibus. So if you have it, or if you were thinking of getting it, you get all these books in that. Brave and the Bold, 86, Batman and Dead Man. There was an issue before this that's kind of like the infamous issue, an infamous cover of the two of them by Neil Adams. This is kind of early on. Dead Man has had kind of his origin, his original issues. We've gone to Brave and the Bold, and then we're here. So we're early into the Dead Man universe here and kind of the creation of the character. So it starts off with our Batman and Robin and some sort of, I now see what that is. That's kind of the top of his head there. Took me forever the first time I was reading it to see what the hell I was looking at there. A melted face or something. Dead Man possesses Robin and turns on Batman trying to kill him. Commissioner Gordon enters the scene. Dead Man takes over his body and tries to kill Batman. And of course, the detective, as he is, doesn't believe that this is the case and kind of goes off to investigate and try to talk to Boston Brand, what the hell is going on. So we get a lot of backstory. He goes to the circus where Boston Brand was performing. His brother is now there taking on the role of Dead Man in the circus performance. We get to go to Rama Krishna. Is that what it is again? Nanda, Willie Smith, your failure to destroy Nanda Parbat has been recorded. So Nanda Parbat is the realm where I think it's Ramakrishna kind of gave Dead Man his powers to kind of remain a spirit within the world to kind of fight crime. So we kind of get that backstory here. Beautiful page here. I love these bottom two panels. Really, really nice stuff. So this was a pretty great story. We get Batman and Boston Brand has now taken over his brother's body. So we get Deadman and Batman going up north. So we get some nice snow scenes as well, which I'm always a big fan of to kind of solve the mystery. Another one that was just a really solid, fun read. Really, really great. That cover is just amazing, though. So, and finally, for the Deadman stuff that I read, I promise we're almost out of mainstream and we're into some other stuff. It was a 3-issue series, 50, 51, and 52 of Aquaman. Took me forever to finally find a copy of this one. Love this cover. Let's get the credits first. Is this Aparo as well, too? I think this is Jim Aparo as well, too, if I remember. Yes. So Steve Skeets and art by Jim Aparo in this issue. Again, where the colorist is doing some strong work here. I love the color choices on this. Having Aquaman kind of stand out. And I love this kind of black and white texture here for, I don't know if it's supposed to be smoke surrounding this ship in the corner there, but I think that's a pretty powerful looking image there with that coloring. We also get some pretty beaten up copies. So I'm going to try to be careful so I don't rip off any more of the cover than is already ripped. Really nice imagery. It's been so long since I've read the first 2 issues. I was really having a hard time, and I didn't have much interest, honestly, in what the hell was going on. I was sort of reading it just to read it, making it through the Aquaman stuff just so I could get to the Deadman pages. I love the flashback here. I was showing Rasa this afternoon as well, too. This flashback sequence I think is beautiful. But we do get the Deadman backup. So even though they separate them into 2 stories, they're very much intertwined within one of the previous issues. They're happening at the same time. Just the 2 characters, I believe they aren't aware of each other in the story, even in the previous issues, but it does kind of relate. So nice looking stuff here in that first panel. Yeah, maybe not an essential unless you're a kind of Deadman completist. I wouldn't say that these 3 issues are essential, but there is some beautiful art in here. But if you find them cheap, it's probably worth checking them out. There you go. On that same note, when we get to the magical realm of the DC universe, I finally got my hands on. I've been waiting to get this. There was a garage sale, one of the comic addicts, and I always see this is the final copy that I needed from this Spectre run from this first volume. And for some reason, every time I see it, it's just ridiculously expensive. I'm not going to take this one out because it's just falling apart, literally. So I think it was $3 is what I paid for this one. It's nice to have the issue. There's some tape all along the spine here, pretty much the only thing that's doing any sort of holding this book together. It was great to read it, great to kind of complete that. I will look for an upgrade eventually, but in the meantime, it's nice to have all of those books. Spectre, a huge favorite. Easily one of the first DC books that I really, really got into, a Spectre along with Shade the Changing Man. It's hard to know exactly which one I got into first. I feel like they're about the same. Nothing yet there. I'm sorry to disappoint you, those of you looking for the titty mags, but nothing this week. There's no smut this week. It's all just kind of dull old superhero shit and some really tame indie stuff, and even fucking My Little Pony. Phantom Stranger, just a random issue of Phantom Stranger. Not going after these in a big way, but this is number 18. Nice to add to it. Just a solid story, kind of that House of Mystery, unexpected, sort of maybe more House of Mystery, House of Secrets kind of storytelling. Hello, Long Box Diver. How are you? Still in the era of Phantom Stranger where he's sort of acting as the horror host like he was early on in this particular run. He's a lot more engaged in the story itself, but there's a lot of it where he's sort of in the background and narrating before he injects himself into the story. Nothing wrong with this read, not mind-blowing, but just kind of a fun, solid read. I bet it is in the little Bibles. Yes. So that's it for that stuff. One thing that I'm not finished reading, and I don't know, Chris, you're here. Here's the closest thing to smut maybe for this. I found a couple of weeks ago this cheap Dawn Lucifer's Halo collection. I think it was, Image that was putting it out. I guess they were doing a Linsner library. I've always been curious to kind of read a chunk of Dawn. When I was selling that collection a few years ago, there were some random issues in there that I flipped through. I really like his art. There was a great documentary on Linsner. I think you can find it on YouTube. I'm sure that's where I've seen it on YouTube. I'm only halfway through this book. It's taking me a long time to get through it. This is not a strong showing, so it's good to know that you've been reading some. Feel free to shoot me a message on Twitter or something of is there a book that I should be going to instead of this, because this isn't going to stay in the house. I'm really struggling with this book. As much as I love his art, this story is just incredibly dull. He's kind of... It's reading like a really, really bad Neil Gaiman is what it reads to me like, and I'm just not getting into it. But I really love the art quite a bit. So if there's anything that you know of that I should start on, if there's a mini series from Dawn that I should start on, please let me know, because I'm still open to trying something out. But this just is absolutely not doing it for me. Probably the old serious Dawn books. Okay, good to know. I'll see. I'm sure that there was some collection there. Hi, how are you?
Good. I'm coming to say goodnight again.
Coming to say goodnight?
But I'm just going to be playing with the cat for a minute.
Okay, that's fine. While she's here, I'll talk about this. This is one that Lillian and I are reading together. This is a mini series. She's got a few books on a pull list. She's got some My Little Pony, and she's got a Nightmare Before Christmas book, and I think there was a, what's her, Wednesday? Is that her name? Wasn't there a Wednesday Addams Family book as well?
Wednesday Addams Family one. I think the next, it said September 2023, maybe?
Right.
Or maybe it was next year. Hi. Yeah, so it's either this year or next year, because it said a one issue, but I don't know.
But you have something, don't you? Yeah, right. Because they had it as, I remember what you're talking about now. There was a one shot, but it doesn't say to be continued or something, but it's clearly just a one shot. So not really sure if this was testing the waters to see if anybody would buy this Wednesday book. So this one is Camp Big Hoof. It's a mini series. Stephanie Cook is the writer. Kate Sharon is the artist. Reggie Graham is on colors. And Reggie Graham really does a lot of the heavy lifting here as far as the art goes, because his colors really, they're fantastic. They're really, really fantastic. It gives it that kind of bubblegum, cartoony kind of look that I feel a book like this needs. And it's not the worst story in the world. It's fun to read these together. There's no doubt, laying in bed and reading some My Little Pony. So it's kind of it's a summer camp, and just look at the coloring there for the flashlight. I think that's really well done. Gives it a real nice glow to their faces. So they're telling, of course, scary stories around the fire, and there's this legend of Big Hoof that's in this area, which of course nobody believes. And we get a flashback where we're getting some of those neon type colors that are all the rage these days. So yeah, it's only been 2 issues so far. Fun stuff. coloring blows me away. Good work. IDW's got a bunch of My Little Pony books. It seems like there's always something. We recently read a 40th anniversary book too, didn't we?
Yeah.
It was a one-shot special.
40th or 30th?
I think it was. No, I'm pretty sure it's 40th because it's 2023. I'm sure this was 80s when My Little Pony came out. So 40 years. So yeah, that's that one. So we'll continue on with that for sure.
Yeah.
It's on her pull list, which I think at Galaxy, your pull list has more books on it than mine at that shop, which is very exciting. We don't get there often. We don't get there every single week, but it's nice to go in and pick up a few things at the same time. That's it for all that stuff. Are you going to bed?
I'm gonna say good night.
Okay.
I might be down here for a little longer, but Mom might call me up, so I might just like leave.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna say good night now.
Okay.
Good night.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
I finally dug into the TMNT Usagi Yojimbo books. I don't have issue number 1. I missed the boat on issue number 1. I haven't really taken a hard look for it, but I haven't found it so far. I don't know how much I'm going to tackle finding issue number 1. I'm going to have some blasphemy here. I'm going to get some negative comments. I did really like this miniseries, to be honest. It was fun. It was good, but I felt it was another one of those books that's like, why is this 5 issues? This could be like 1 issue or something. The highlight of it for me was a character who's based off of Zatoichi, the blind swordsman, and his daughter that appears in the Usagi Yojimbo universe. I'm pretty sure I might have run into the character as well in the omnibus, the first volume there that I have. I just don't remember off the top of my head. But that character intrigued me the most because I'm a huge fan of the Zatoichi movies, or the ones that I've seen anyway, out of the, 25 films. I think I've seen the first 14. I still haven't made it through that box set. So it had its moments. I do like Stan Sakai's art. There's nothing wrong with his art. There's nothing wrong with the action in it and stuff. I find that I've preferred some of the Usagi that, again, I'm by far not even close to an expert in Usagi Yojimbo. I haven't read everything by any stretch, but I find that I really like that stuff a lot better than this one. I like the way the stories flow through the OG Usagi stories, as opposed to this one kind of shoehorning some characters together to make a mini series. Yeah, so I just didn't feel it as much. I'm glad that I got it. I'm glad that I gave it a shot, but it's not one that really blew me away, honestly. One that did blow me away, and I'm very, very glad for. I have Kaya on my pull list. This is one that actually me and Lillian will end up reading together too, now that I've read the first 10 issues.
I think we read some of it.
Did we read the first one together? Yeah. Well, then we should continue. The first few probably, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay. So then we should continue because I have the issues now. So another one that was on my pull list, but for some reason, number 5 didn't make it into my pull box. And it took a while to hunt down a copy of number 5. So once I got it, it's up to issue number 10, I think is the newest one. Once I picked up issue number 5, just kind of sat one afternoon and just kind of read all the way through to number 10. I love this series. I think this is a really, really fun book. Again, even for something that is maybe YA and fantasy focused, which isn't always my go-to. I find this such an enjoyable read. One of the things that he says he's going to be doing is there's going to be trades of these story arcs. In between each of the arcs, he's going to do a one-off issue that is only going to appear in this floppy form. You look comfortable there. Is only going to exist in a single issue form, and it won't get collected in the trades. So in this particular one, so far, it's issue number 6. So for those of you who are looking to maybe try it out in the trade, I would strongly encourage you to pick up this issue. This really gives you some backstory that I think it really adds to the depth of the character in the universe and stuff. We get a backstory on how Kaya gained her metallic robotic arm here, as well as a backup story by another artist, which is an amazing thing as well. One of the things that impresses me about Wes Craig, who is story, art, and design. Jason Wordy is on colors. Again, another colorist that's doing an outstanding job working together with Wes Craig. His ability to change up his style a little bit, I think, is exceptional. It's not something that is a surprise to anybody. It's not even a surprise to me. I'm just not as into Wes Craig as some other people. I haven't read all of Deadly Class. He had something else called Gravediggers Union as well too, which that name sounds familiar, but I've never read that. I love the way he kind of changes up his style. So this one, there's a lot of flashbacks. So we get a very different texture. We get a very different look than the regular book, and a little bit different coloring as well too. So all these flashbacks, we get an idea of why Kaya is the way that she is, and again, we get the backstory on how she gained her arm. I'm not going to show you those pages. I don't want to spoil anything. These pages, I think, were fantastic. Her uncle is going to the mountains to talk to the gods, and what happens to him there. But beautiful, beautiful pieces here, beautiful panels. So when we finish with our main story, we get a backup, which is going to also happen every single issue. Every single issue in between arcs, there's going to be a different artist doing a backup story. This time, it's somebody named Al Gofa. His work includes Dark Angels of Darkness, Cry Punch, and Orc Jim. Good night, Lo. And I love love his work. This is really, it's beautiful. So yet another reason to get the single issues, because if he sticks to it, I mean, a lot of people say a lot of things that we're not going to include things in trade, and then next thing you know, it's in the trade paperback as well too. So yeah, I think you'd like this one, Chris. I think this is a good one for you. But look at this, the way he draws Kaya there is really great. So fun series. I'm loving where the story is going with these other issues. I'm loving the second story arc. The first one, it started off, I was enjoying it. It kind of, so far I'm liking the second story arc even more, though. It starts to ramp up at a really good pace, and that world kind of starts to expand. So this is definitely a highlight of newer books that I'm picking up here. So like I said, 10 issues out. Finally, for stuff that I read this week, before we look at a few things that I picked up recently, I dove into some Matt Howarth again. Big on Howarth these days. Start with the one that was kind of the weakest of the reads for me, Brave New Words. So he's got a lot of, thank you very much, Damien, hello. You and me have chatted when I've been sitting in this room way back when we talked about Last Kingdom. So many years ago, I've sat in this room to have some chats and things. Where I'm usually sitting is just behind that white door over there. So this is just a one-shot. Matt Howarth has pretty dense worlds that he's created, the Post Brothers and Bugtown world being one of them, and then the Mad Empress world, which is new to me with this issue here. This was a story of a guy working at a comic shop who falls in love with this woman who visits the shop. He's never talked to her. His depression kind of gets his kind of negative self-view, I guess, or his lack of confidence gets the best of him and manifests itself as this creature. There's some great Howarth drawing in here, but I didn't think it was the strongest of stories. But it was only a one-shot, so worth it. And Brave New Words, again, the company that I'm very curious to get as much from them as I possibly can, because it looks like they have some interesting stuff. Actually, let's save that one, because that was probably my favorite read out of the ones today. Got a couple of more issues. So we talked about Bugtown, issue number 1. This is one that came to us from Nate. I found a couple of more issues. This is a 6-issue miniseries from 2005, 2004, 2005. 2005 is when it is. Well, 2004 and into 2005. So we got issues number 2 and 3 of the 6. Number 1 I loved, and at first after I read number 1, I'd said that if you don't know Matt Howarth, this is a good place to start. After reading these first 3, I'm not so sure if I would still make that recommendation. One of the things that I'm finding confusing about this book, it's becoming too dense 3 issues in. Every single issue, I took my comics with me. Every single issue we get a different character that's getting transported to Bugtown from kind of, I guess, what's our reality. Bugtown is kind of an alternative dimension that people get sucked into. So because there's so much, every issue kind of has short stories that they relate because they're happening at the same time. We get a little bit of crossover. We always start with the character that's getting zapped into Bugtown from our world. It's just starting to feel a little overwhelming at only 3 issues in. And the idea being like, I'm assuming that all of this is going to kind of tie in together at some point, and I don't really know how he's going to do it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep track. Aggressively relaxing. How are you? So I'm not sure how it's all going to pan out. And it's kind of at a point where by the third issue, I found myself just pretty confused as to what I was even reading or what direction it was going in, because it's not like these individual short stories. Some of them have a very kind of distinctive beginning and an end where you do feel like you're reading a complete little story. But as a whole issue, I don't know if this format for every single one of these issues is working as well for me. That said, though, there is 3 issues to go. Who knows? Maybe it will all sort of tie together at some point. I will complete it because I'm just a Howarth Uber fan, Uber stan at this point. Daryl D, how are you? Bug City was a great Presidency USA song. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we get a lot of our characters. We get Savage Henry, we get Caroline, we get to Lady Hiroshima, we get the Post Brothers in here. So we have the usual cast of characters that inhabits this world and stuff, but I just don't know how much this one is working for me. I'll just show you, is this issue number 3? Yeah, so here's issue number 3 here with Ron Post diving into the gaping maw of a creature in Bugtown. Bugtown is always in a constant state of anarchy and destruction. This one also had our character kind of from our world that gets zapped into Bugtown. It really had an unusual, for the Matt Howarth that I've read so far, it had a very kind of misogynistic twist to the way this female character was treated in this first story that honestly turned me off quite a bit, actually. And while I know I have a ton of Howarth stuff to read, I've read a good chunk of stuff now, and I've never seen him portray a female character like that before. So it was a little off-putting. And I hope it has some sort of resolution. But she does not have a good experience in Bugtown so far. We get introduced to a couple of new characters in here too, or at least one new character. There's this group of nuns who's I would love to read a story about this group of nuns, actually. Let's see, what do they call themselves again? Bugtown, a place of unrestrained possibilities. I'm Sister Helga of the Terminal Street Order of Nuns. You are welcome to take refuge with us, for I sense you are a newcomer to this dreadful place. Their job there is to maintain the chaos in this universe. They're not there to kind of save your soul. They they shoot up all sorts of creatures and monsters and curse and pray to the effigy of the first victim. So I guess what they see as the first person that got zapped into Bugtown and died in Bugtown from this other dimension, from our dimension. So they're kind of interesting characters that I would love to read a miniseries. And for all I know, there's probably a miniseries out there. Aeon also did a couple of other things with him. This Video Hiroshima, I really would like to get my hands on. It's about Lady Hiroshima, who's one of the Post Brothers girlfriends, or at least in the stuff that I've been reading. And then there's this Puppet Trap as well, too. So Aeon, for mature readers, where were they based out of? Aeon was an imprint of Moo Press, and Moo Press was infamous for its kind of furries. The comics contain furries and things. I think that Albedo that I had might have been a Moo Press book at some point, or at least been published by Moo Press. Howarth had some backup stories in some of those issues as well, too. So pretty great. I'm sorry. Aeon seems pretty great. Some really promising things in there. I don't know how the rest of this is going to go. Yeah, it looks like they did some Post Brothers as well, too, because I think those annoying Post Brothers went to a few different publishers like we talked about before. The highlight of my Matt Howarth reading this week, though, was this issue. It's a 2-issue micro series, I guess, called Scan. And this one introduced me to a world that I know nothing about and just getting introduced here. The Mad Empress. And it's this kind of sci-fi story. I don't know if Connie and Zoo, we've talked about them before, if they exist. Yeah, right there, cat. I don't know if Connie and Zoo or Kazoo exist in this universe as well, too. I'll find out when I read some more here, I guess, as we go through. This was really enjoyable, and again, just a really nice intro into a world that I'd love to know some more about. What are some of the other titles in this universe? They have a listing at the back here. Afternoon in the Sun, there was something called Fix, and then there was something called Sand Scripts, which is a Scan prequel. We get a lot of just classic Howarth art here, though. It ends on kind of a landscape page there. I just really enjoy, I love his kind of minimal art at times, and then some of these really complex pointillist backgrounds and things. I love his ability to create like an interesting universe. These are two main characters here kind of scour the universe for planets and looking for life forms. They discover this one planet that shouldn't, it's a sand planet, and it shouldn't be able to hold life of any kind. When they zap down in kind of like their bubble, they're met by a human-looking creature that appears very briefly. Let's see if I can find the picture here. Yeah, here we go. So they kind of beam down to the surface. They're met by this character here that starts to dissolve and then disappear. So the mystery is kind of, you know, it's imprinted on them now. So they head back to the ship, and now they want to kind of hang out and see what the hell they can do to find out what's going on this planet. Look, these pages are fantastic. The universe there surrounding the planet. So they send down a probe, waiting for one of these humanoid figures to make an appearance so they can get a sample of that person, so they can look at its genetic makeup and clone it. So when they succeed in that, they make a couple of clones that end up just going insane and dying almost immediately after their existence. GPAP. So here we can see one of the clones being made in their lab. So they decide to change the sex of one of the clones and see if that makes a difference. So instead of having this female character, they make a male version using the same or modifying the genetic code that they have. And this one exists, and he's extremely hostile, or at least appears to be anyway. But we end with him. My name is Miranda, and this is my shipmate Rex. And I greet you, Miranda and shipmate Rex. You can call me Frost, Alex Frost. So he's got the kind of Kiss/black metal makeup going on there. But this was really, really good. This is Iconographics, their GPAP. So this is a division of Caliber. Of course, it's a division of Caliber Press. This is from 1992. So it's a 2-issue series. And I'm completely hooked and need to find out what is going on in this universe. So Howarth has done it to me yet again. With a really interesting book. So probably the Howarth highlight of the week. Need a sports show. Put that over there. So that's everything that I read this week. I'll kind of take you through a couple of pickups that I had. The Bugtown, the Scan, and then the other Howarth came to me from a eBay, a Canadian eBay seller. I think I got 8 books from them. And really, really cheap, excellent, cheap shipping, and some quality books. I have a bunch of stuff bookmarked on eBay from the same seller. They had a couple of more issues of Rain, which I talked a lot about when I read issue number 2. This is issue number 3 and 4. It's a 6-part miniseries from Tundra. I wanted to sit down one night and kind of dive into it. You really have to be in the right mindset for this book, because when you open it up and you're met with stuff like this, like I just wasn't feeling it in that moment. So I'm hoping to get to these this week, or at least one of them. It might be one of those books that I do really take my time reading. It's dense, but it's gorgeous. Very intrigued by the world. There's a write-up at the end of number 4, I think by Steve Bissette. It's at the back of one of these issues anyway. Maybe it's issue number 3. And yeah, here we go. So book 3 of 6, commentary by Stephen Bissette. So he kind of gives you a brief look in this world and saying, listen, like, this comic isn't created to give you answers. This comic is created to make you ask questions and decipher it. And he just kind of sings its praises. But yeah, man, I love this. Rolf Stark is the creator's name. Rain is a punch in the stomach. Rolf Stark avoids comfortable conclusions and keeps to what he's seen and felt and knows. Powerful. So says Frank Miller. Excellent stuff. Looking forward to those. I picked up a Empire Lanes. This is volume 2 of Empire Lanes. I have all of volume 1. This is volume 2. I haven't started in on it yet. I picked up issue number 1 of Lycanthrope Leo from, is this from Viz? Yeah, of course it is. Viz Premier Comics. I'd found one of these issues recently in like a dollar bin or something, issue number 5 or something. I saw I had issue number 1. I'm interested enough. I love werewolf movies. I love werewolves as a kind of creature in some of these stories. The art is really great. I always love picking up some manga that I know nothing about. The interiors of this look fucking phenomenal. But very, very, very curious about this series. I know nothing about it. The creators, the story by Kengo Kaji and art by Kenji Okamura. And let's see if they have anything at the back of what else they've done. I don't recognize the names. Doesn't mean I don't know anything by them, though. If I saw, I'm not seeing anything. So, yeah, I might actually dig into this one tonight, looking through this. Been collecting a lot of Eros comics lately. I'm hooked on those. Amazing. I hope that me and Colin have had everything to do with that, GPAP. Are you finding a lot of Eros titles in your neck of Canada? And then found myself a first print of 8-Ball #1. That's amazing. Was pleased with that find. That's an incredible find. Rain has an Aeon Flux feel to it, if I'm not mistaken. I don't personally see it. I feel like this is a lot more dense than anything from Aeon Flux. But I'm not super familiar with Aeon Flux, to be honest. So it could very well be. You know what? A publishing house that has great books is Lightning Comics. Serious, great 90s art. Okay, that name doesn't ring a bell for me. Lightning Comics. I'll have to check that out. And finally, I'm getting closer. I have 6 of the 12 issues. This is the one and only Ted McKeever, my absolute favorite comic creator, artist, especially his early stuff. He started to fall off for me towards the end. And I think what was the last one that he did? Was it called Pencilhead? Is that what it was? About his time in comics. That one didn't do much for me. I picked it up because it was Ted McKeever and apparently the last thing that he was going to do in comics. But this is the shit. This is early stuff. So this is 1988. Apparently, Eddie Current first appearance is in an anthology called Splat from Mad Dog, issue #3 of that anthology. I have issue #1 of that. So issue #3 is high on my list now. So this is kind of pre-Plastic Forks, pre-Metropol. Eddie Current, of course, makes an appearance in Metropol, one of my favorite of Ted McKeever's works. But I just wanted to show you the first few pages here. It's going to take me forever to find it. I have the collected edition of this, but I mean, I don't need to tell anybody hanging out in this room that nothing beats getting the original issues. His storytelling and his minimalist use of page layouts and panels and things, and really letting white space stand out. I love it. I absolutely love it. So I'm very, very much on the hunt for the remaining 6 issues that I need. Each issue represents an hour of Eddie Current's life. So here we are in the 10th hour of Eddie Current's story here. But I love the way he lays these pages out. And as we start to kind of come out of our dream world into reality, this kind of almost melding of the faces. And then we bust out of it with our 2 other main characters from the story. Yeah, really great. Ted McKeever is a legendary cartoonist for me. It really does, Damien. It really does. He's really his own. He's kind of in his own class as far as this kind of independent comic artist goes. There's really nobody else like him. He takes a lot of amazing qualities from like that 80s black and white boom, but then managed to translate that to like Vertigo and DC and some more mainstream fare, and then eventually Image Comics. And his style really changed over the years too, but this is the stuff that is the best for my money. So very excited to have another issue. Like I said, I never see this out there. And when I do, it's usually the issues that I already have. So really great to find one that I don't have. So those were from the eBay seller. When I ducked in to pick up the Raphael Grandpa Batman story, I had a look in the bins. I went to cover for that one, which is kind of one of the closer comic shops to my house. Shout out to Tony at Cover to Cover. I always end up looking through his back issue bins. That's where I got that Adventure Comics for $1. He also had the final issue that I needed from everybody's favorite Warlock 5 from Aircel. This first, 13 issues from Gordon Derry and name that I always blank on. I have all this again collected in a hardcover, and it's beautiful, but you need this on the yellowed pages, because the airbrush kind of quality of the work really stands out when it's not super crisp. I find that when you really recreate these or reproduce these in kind of high quality and real crisp lines, it loses some of that kind of airbrushed feel to it. I love Warlock 5. I've talked about it many, many times. I was so excited to find this final issue. And when I brought these up, because I also picked up issue number 14, which is the first story in kind of the second arc. It's new creators. I just wanted to give it a try, just to see if I'm going to like it. I don't know if I will, but I wanted to give it a shot. When I brought it up, Tony said to me, he's like, what the hell is going on with Warlock 5? Is there something happening with this? Because I've had a bunch of people come in and buy issues, so much so that I've had to go into my back stock to replenish the bin of Warlock 5. So I don't know what's happening or what the word is out there, but I'm glad that it's picking up some steam. I'm glad that people are getting into it because it's a hell of a good story. And these, like I said, the first 13 issues are the ones that you really want. And if you really become a fan of that, finding a copy of that collected edition will give you a bonus 2 issues that never got published by the same creators that sort of tie the whole story together. Yeah. Fucking Warlock 5, man. So glad to have this whole run in singles now. Yeah. Take a quick look into issue number 14 here. So the creators in issue number 14, Charles DeLint is the writer. Patrick McEwen is layouts, and Barry Blair doing pencils. Jim Somerville on inks, and Mike Charbonneau, I guess, on lettering. So this is from 1988, and you can see already. Actually, there's nothing horrible about this art. I don't mind those pages. It's not the airbrushed quality of the previous issue, but this doesn't actually look as bad as some of the much later stuff. There's some stuff near the end of this run that kind of, oh, jumping Jesus. Look at this photo reproduction here. I guess they gave up, and that was too much work. Those first few pages were too much work. Because fuck it, get a photograph in here. Let's get rid of some backgrounds. Let's simplify things here. Yeah, much later on, the art really isn't anything special at all. It really kind of falls back into that, what you think of when you think Aircel. Last weekend, there was a garage sale, one of the Comic Addicts, and I went and picked up a few things. That's where I got that Spectre issue. I also got a couple of other things. Damien, I don't know if you're still in the room here, but I found myself a copy of The Spirit, the Kitchen Sink, the first one, issue number 1 from the Kitchen Sink, reproducing was it the weekly strips? But it reproduces some strips in here, and it's sort of that golden age size. Thank God I use low-tack tape. That's the first time that's ever happened to me, and that'll teach me a very valuable lesson to not fuck around with tape, so much so that I'm taking that shit off right this very second. Stand by. That was a damn good lesson to learn live on camera. Fuck that. Crime Convention, Will Eisner's The Spirit. So we get some reproductions or reprints rather, from 1946. We get an intro to Will Eisner and the Spirit character. I think there's a few original pages in there too. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it, because even flipping to the back, they don't have that. Oh yeah, here we go. Some stuff from 1972. So it looks like it does span some time here. This last story might be something that was original to this particular printing. So a real nice find of this one here. What do we have? Yeah, so 1946, April 14th, 1946. And then what do we go to next? November 10th, 1946. So we jump around a little bit there. So we're not getting anything kind of in order. Cherry picking a few stories here for this first kitchen sink. And then we get the nice wraparound cover. I guess when he was trying to appeal maybe more to an underground market. So we better get some boobs going on in the back there. And he carries around 2 pounds of pure horse in him. You turn me on. You selling horse or him? Of course I'm queer for this buzzard. Her name is Julia. Like, wow, never made it with a buzzard. Want to sell her? Which is kind of hokey, but what are you going to do? Trying to appeal to a different audience for some classic spirit stories. Something else he had there that I couldn't resist picking up. It was cheap. The cover is the best thing about it. I read the first story. This is Gasp. I think there was only 6 issues of this. 1967, I think, is the date on this one. Just kind of a horror anthology, a classic horror anthology. That cover is unreal. He had a few issues from this series, but this is the one that jumped out at me. So a nice one. Another Phantom Stranger book. Can never go wrong with that. And finally, comics book issue number 1. There was 4 issues of this. Dennis Kitchen edited, underground, very loose quotes magazine, done for Marvel Comics. I've got the first 3. The 4 I haven't ever found yet. It was collected as well too, where you can get everything in one volume. I started to read this one. I didn't get very far. It's not underground in the sense of anything that that I'm drawn to. It's a nice artifact of that era, and I think it's pretty fantastic that Dennis Kitchen managed to make such a sweet deal. All the creators retained their rights to the strips. Marvel didn't own anything. He basically told Stan that, you know, I get the final say in what gets put in this magazine, not you. There's a kind of intro Birth of Comics book by Dennis Kitchen here, where we have Stan Lee looking like J. Jonah Jameson. The Kayfabe guys did an interview with Kitchen, and he talks at length about his time here dealing with Stan and Marvel when he was doing Comics Joint. Trina Robbins, Skip Williamson is in here as well too. Art Spiegelman is in here with this Ace Hole detective, midget detective story that's reprinted from a few other places, I think. Did it originally appear in Raw magazine, possibly? Who else do we have in here? Myron the Moose, Vince Davis. We have some Basil Wolverton, just a 2-pager from Basil Wolverton. So not too bad. It's not a horrible anthology. Howard Cruz, of course, you can't go wrong with Howard Cruz. But the few that I read, just they didn't have the same kind of energy as the OG Undergrounds, so I sort of put it aside. Justin Green and Ted Richards doing a strip together. That's kind of great. 2 Fools in a Cave. That's a good pairing, actually. The beginning of a long Eisner kitchen sink relationship. Absolutely. Some more Skip Williamson. I really like Skip Williamson's art style. I think it's really nice. Super Sammy Smoot. I think that's about it. I feel like I've prattled on enough. Thanks very much for hanging out, everybody. Damien, good to see you. GPAP, good to see you as well. Daryl D, always good to see you, Daryl. I haven't got my copy of Den yet, Daryl, the hardcover. I missed out on the first printing. Apparently, they didn't print enough. Motherfuckers didn't print enough. So, on purpose, I'm sure. So there was a lot of shops that got shorted for the first printing. So I'm signed up to get the second printing. A bunch of shops got notification from Diamond that the Dark Horse is going to be doing a second printing, and they're going to fulfill everybody's order. but I do feel like that's an absolute bullshit game that they played, as if you don't fucking know how many people have pre-ordered stuff. Because a guy like me who pre-ordered that shit as soon as I heard about it months and months ago. So I'm a little pissed that I'm not going to get it for a little while longer. And I'm a little pissed that I'm going to be getting a second edition of it. But I do still want these Corbin collections. So I'm okay ultimately with getting whatever printing it is. But I do hate it when I feel like there's a game being played with us to kind of increase the value of a book that we all know Corbin books are going to go out of print, and that people are going to buy them all up and they're going to raise in price anyway. Now throw into the mix that there was a first printing and a second printing of the first volume of Den. So it kind of, it's a bit of an irritant, and it's the kind of stuff that used to make me kind of abandon publishers, and Southern Lord Records being one of them, who used to play those kind of games with minimal printings of LPs to drive the price up. I just tapped out and just stopped buying anything from them regardless. Yeah, so anyway, rant over. End rant. Cthulhu Luke, Miss So, Chaos and Comics, Long Box Diver. Thanks very much for hanging out. Aggressively Relaxing. And we'll see you next week. We'll probably be on my channel doing a chat with Rasa. And we'll see you on Sunday. Yeah, I'll stick with the original copies as well, too. I've got a bunch of it, but it is nice to see the reproduction, because I'm really curious to see the Jose Villarrubia recoloring, because he worked so closely with Corbin near the end of his life on some stuff, and then also kind of drew from a bunch of different editions of Den to kind of get the best sampling of what the colors were that he originally had wanted. So I'm very, very curious to get kind of a reproduction of a book that is going to be that much closer to what Corbin would have wanted it to be. So that's the main reason I want these ones, because I do have the stories. I've got the heavy metal issues that they appear in as well too. So it's not that I've never read this stuff. I just want something that's reproduced in such an amazing way by the hand of a guy who knew Corbin and had kind of had his blessing as far as how he colored his stories. The last couple of stories he did, I think, with Marvel. Maybe he was the colorist on that Banner series, Villarrubia, maybe. I don't remember. There might have been a couple of mini-series that he colored Corbin's work. So anyway, okay. Talk to you later.